If I tell you to do the washing, I'm nagging. But you expect me, when you come to me and ask, are my clothes clean for work tomorrow? You've expected me to do it off my own back. If we're behaving in the same way, why is yours a positive connotation and mine's a negative?
Jessica Parish, not just a set designer, but a force behind groundbreaking promotional campaigns.
It's always intriguing to find out where that work ethic comes from.
My dad, when I was quite young, he instilled in me, you don't get anything for nothing. You do chores and you get rewarded for those chores, or you do good things, you get rewarded. And he was very keen on, you make your own money. It is hard to switch off. If I'm not on my phone dealing with business, I'm thinking about business, I'm thinking about our next move.
What about the work-life balance?
I don't have one.
A lot.
I don't think my work-life balance is healthy because I don't have one. Things are not straightforward. As a woman, you have to grow a thick skin. You've got to be prepared for pain. Things may not be taken as seriously. You might have to put a lot more work in. But I think if you truly believe in it, absolutely go for it. But be prepared that it might not work as well.
Welcome to the show, Jess.
Thanks for having me.
I think it's well overdue, of course. We've spoken about sitting down and having a proper conversation. So, yeah. So I'm going to go straight into it, really. You are one of the most hardworking people that I know. So it's always intriguing to find out where that work ethic comes from. So where does it come from? My
dad, mainly. He's always worked really hard. When my brother was born, he was only 21, had a full-time job, went to night school to become an accountant, and then from that worked his way up and has always had side businesses or things like that. But when I was quite young, he instilled in me, like, you don't get anything for nothing. So, you know, you do chores and you get rewarded for those chores, or you do good things, you get rewarded. And he was very keen on, you make your own money, otherwise you're not going to get anything out of it, kind of thing. So I had a job from when I was 16, which he got for me, went into a local wine shop in our little town, and he said, oh, do you know anyone that needs a job? And he just turned around and went, yeah, she's 16 in 2 weeks. And he was like, okay, come back in 2 weeks. And then that was my first job. But it's more, I think he taught me that you need to, the stress of money you can relieve from yourself. So if you work hard and make sure you have a backup plan, or you save, etc., you will find a way that will make a happier place for yourself. And I think that's where the hard work comes from, because I just want a place where I'm comfortable, where the people around me are comfortable, and where I can be happy and content with that. And yeah, I think that's amazing, really. That's kind of what we all want from our parents, to be able to give us those kind of skills and mindsets. And I think it's really important. But what's more fascinating is the fact that, you know, you say you have a brother, right? Yeah. And I think there's a lot of females that have maybe successful fathers, but I don't see them all adopting the mindsets. Maybe the guys, but, you know, being a female in business, you know, what was it about you that you were just able to soak in everything that your dad said, and then, you know, now apply it in real life and be out there as a female boss, you know, running your own business? I don't know. That's a hard one to answer. I think it's because I don't like the thought of a man providing anything for me. And I have a really strong grandma, a really strong mum, a really strong stepmom. And it was, you will never depend on anyone to give you anything. And I think having those strong females behind me as well then pushed me to listen to my dad and adopt what he was saying, because it was like, I'm going to be as strong as you are. I'm going to be as independent, and I'm going to supply for people just like you do. But it is hard being a woman in business. It's definitely not easy. I obviously have a male business partner, and even going to view a workshop to rent, when we arrived, I'd done all the communication with the owner, set it all up. And when we went, the owner exclusively spoke to my business partner instead of me. And it's like, it was me that put the money in to start the business. It's me that controls where we're spending our money. Yeah. So the fact that he kind of directed it all straight away, I was like, I will never rent from you, because you looked at me like, oh, you must just be his assistant that's come with him, or just the chauffeur that's driven him there. So those kind of things still catch me up. And then I just hear my dad being like, you can be who you want to be, and you make sure you walk in that room and you keep your head up and you own it, whether you're a male or a female. Yeah. But yeah, I think women have a bigger part to play than they think. And I think, like you say, having a strong dad, you then kind of look up to him because you think, oh, if I had a man in my life, that's what I'd want him to be like.
Yeah.
But then why can't I be that man?
Yeah.
For myself. Do you know?
It raises the standards for sure in terms of the man that you're going to be with in the future or the man that you have now. But I think a lot of men are a bit scared of a independent, strong and capable woman because it pushes them to their limits. Because, you know, men run off ego to a certain point and they want to be the providers, they want to be the protectors. So if you have that, they have to be able to top that by a little bit at least, just to feel like a man, you know. So a woman that has a lot of that already would put a man on the back foot.
My business or the way I do my business or the way I've worked out my life shouldn't be threatening to someone. And in my head, that means you're looking at yourself and thinking, well, I haven't done that much. What I provide, I want an equal in that. I don't necessarily want you to earn more than me, but in my head, you know, my dad and stepmom are equals, you know. My dad may bring in more money, but my stepmom does a lot more around the house. But he would never look down on her and say, well, I earn more money than you. And I think that's the thing. If all you can bring on the table is, oh, I earn more money than you, then you shouldn't be sat at my table.
Definitely.
Because that's not what's important to me. That money aspect isn't important. I want you to bring kindness, knowledge, general morals. I don't want you to come at me and say, and I have had it before where someone said, oh, but you earn more money than me. I'm not sure if I like that. Okay, what has that got to do with anything, really? And then why are you not working harder? Or are you expecting a woman to earn less than you so that you still have that, like you say, that ego that's like, oh, well, I'm the man in this. It shouldn't be about that anymore. It should be, we are on an equal playing field and I've worked hard to get to where I am. So you should be working hard in your own field to get to where you are.
I think what's interesting is the mindset of men, right? So for him to think that the only value he brings is money, I'm trying to figure out whether that's something that he's made up in his head, or is it the society that's brought it up, or is it something that women expect? Do you know what I mean? I think it's sad that a man, and I've spoken about this before, and I don't like the fact that, you know, when it comes to men, it's about what they can bring, the material things that they can bring. But when it comes to women, men look for the things that women can be as a woman, not about what the material things she can gather. Yeah. But when it comes to men, it's like, you know, how much wood can you fetch, or how much of a house can you build, or how much cattle have you accumulated as the value for the man, while a woman's like, how calm and nurturing and, you know, peaceful and supportive and all of these, you know, intangible things, and that you can, you know, how much can you raise our child and do those things. So I'm trying to figure out whether it's the expectation of women that's, you know, pushed men into like, okay, for me to be valuable, I need to go and accumulate, while for women, like, okay, for me to be valuable, I need to be more beautiful and push, you know, my feminine essence to the maximum. So I'm trying to figure that out. But what do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's a bit of both. I think from a young age, women are expected to be nurturing and kind. And, you know, I read something the other day that was like, oh, I hope I have a girl first, because then she can look after her younger brother and nurture him. So it's like straight away with that mindset, we're expected to just nurture people that are younger than us or take them in and look after them. So I think that comes into it because we're just expected to be that way. And when there isn't, what are we then labelled? We're labelled bossy, a bitch. But if a man went in a room and demanded something, oh, he's a leader. Well, if we're behaving in the same way, why is yours a positive connotation and mine's a negative? And I think that's still instilled, and then that also then refers to the relationship side of things, where it's like, if I tell you to do the washing, I'm nagging, but you expect me, because when you come to me and ask, are my clothes clean for work tomorrow, you've expected me to do it off my own back. And that it still baffles me, because if you live in a house, why wouldn't you take care of it? If you lived on your own, you would do those things. So why, when a woman is all of a sudden there, you then all of a sudden become incapable of doing the things you could do before? But I think it's the same in business. If a woman's there, it's like, oh, for me, for example, you can't be the builder, you must be the project manager. It's that automatic thing of like, oh, are you sure she can lift that? It's just a pre-described notion of, like you say, women are feminine and we're pretty and that doesn't necessarily mean we have underlying values that aren't equal to a male counterpart's values.
Sorry to interrupt, but if you're enjoying this show or finding any kind of value in our conversations, then let me tell you this. Our show is sponsored by Potential Foundation, a non-profit initiative that I started with a mission to create opportunities and solutions for the less privileged communities in Africa. And we just started in Nigeria. So I would like to just ask for your support. By simply clicking on the link above, you can donate any amount to help me and my team on our mission to spread love and make genuine impact in underprivileged communities in Africa and change people's lives. Thank you.
Looks have become a lot more valued. It's a lot more talked about. It's a lot more pressured into, if you don't look a certain way, you know, I'm nearing 30, am I going to get Botox soon? It's become such a normal question to ask because there's an expectation that, everyone wants to look that way, or everyone wants to look younger.
Yeah.
And I think that doesn't necessarily help the situation. And it's a difficult one. I think as you grow, you know, when I was younger, if I felt threatened by someone, I'd probably be nastier to them, especially as a teenager, you know, when there's a really pretty girl and you think, I just don't like her because not because there's a valid reason, but because you might want to look like her or whatever that may be. And then as you get older, you look and think, you know, I just hope she's happy. I hope that whatever she does, if that Botox, that lip filler, whatever it might be, if that makes her happy and feels more confident in herself, then good for her. But my worry is that are we doing it to please other people because we think that's what men expect us to look like, or what other women expect us to look like, rather than because we actually prefer ourselves to look that way? Or is it just because that's the norm beauty standard now to look that way, rather than being like, do you know what, this is just what my face looks like?
I think to me it's quite obvious. I mean, 10 years ago no one was doing it like that. 10 years before that they were doing different things. The fact that we keep changing what is acceptable or what is the beauty standard tell me that people are not doing it for themselves. They're doing it because that's what the society is saying, and that's the issue. And I think it's quite clear for me. So it would be great if people can really know themselves enough to know what they need to do for themselves, full stop, regardless of the trend of the society and what the society's view is on things, because we're all individuals and we are all different and we all need different things. So fine, if you want to do something for yourself, then I wouldn't expect it's something that would keep changing every 5 years. Would it be fair to say that, you know, men can handle the emotional roller coaster of the journeys more than women? Or is it something that you say, do you know what, it doesn't matter who you are, do you know what I mean, you can definitely handle it as much?
I think it depends. I think I'm maybe more expressive with my emotions. My business partner is as cool as a cucumber 99% of the time, but in his head the cogs are still going. He just doesn't express it. Whereas I'll sit there and say, head on the desk, like, why? Or I'll cry when I get really angry. But I think we just have different ways of expressing it, and I think men are taught maybe to not show their emotions as much. So I think the struggles are the same on both sides. It's just that women are not afraid to show that emotion, but then in turn we then get called that we're too emotional, and are you sure this is a job for you because you're a very emotional person? It's like, no, I'm just expressive, and I'm not afraid to sit there and say to you, do you know what, I'm not happy with that, or that. Whereas a man might go around it a bit of a different way, whereas I'll just call it up front and be like, no, that's not cool, don't like that. So I don't know.
It's just a bit, maybe it's just a perception thing where it looks like men handle it better.
I think so.
But really and truly, we're all suffering the same suffer.
I think so. And I think actually, if anything, men probably suffer more because they don't talk about it. Because they might not go home and talk to their respective other about what's going on. Whereas I'll go home and run, or I'll call my dad and be like, I've had the worst day. But, and that helps them because then you get feedback. Whereas I think... And then that might come with criticism. Whereas I think men don't necessarily seek that feedback because they think, no, I can do this on my own.
Ego, right?
And it's damaging. That ego can harm a lot and can prevent you from winning in so many things just because you don't want to hear that one potential negative thing, but that thing could then elevate you to so much more.
For sure.
But don't get me wrong, nobody likes being criticised. I don't.
No.
And when I do, I'm sat there with a screwed up face thinking, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
But I'll then go away and reflect on that and say, do you know what, actually, I did not handle this well, or no, I should have listened to this and done it a different way. And that's what it's all about. It's about learning, and everyone's learning as they go, whether it's dealing with emotions or handling business or, you know, being reflective. But I do think women are more open to that reflection. But then we're also probably criticised a lot more. So then we have to be more open to that, because you're criticised if I wear my hair curly today but straight tomorrow, or I've got extensions in that don't match, or whatever it might be. You're criticised from such a small age of, oh, you can't be this but you can be that, because that's a man's job. So you're already used to that kind of criticism and feedback, that by the time you're 30, you're like, okay, cool, that's what you want to say, but is that what it's coming from, or is it a society standard that you think that way? Would
you actually recommend that people start businesses without backing, and, you know, at least for let's say their first business, or do you think try and get back in and get some kind of investment to start with? Just you know, what's the benefit?
I think it depends how much you believe and how your forecast is looking. When I started the business, I didn't know what that forecast was going to be. I didn't know what clients we were going to get, what jobs we were going to get in. It was just, should we try it and see what happens? We can always do freelance on the side if we need to. I think the only good thing about us not having backing is there was no pressure to pay anyone back. If we have a bad month, or we lose a job, or we lose money on a job, the only people that it's affecting is myself and my business partner. We don't have an investor saying, well, you need to pay back this much money in this much time. So I think it's relieved some of the pressure in that sense. But at the same time then, you know, are there like machines, saws we could have bought with an investment that might have pushed our business further? Yes. Yeah. So I think it depends on what that money is going to do for you and how much it will elevate you further into whatever field you're going into, more so than, oh, I just want 10 grand because I want 10 grand to start it. What is that 10 grand going to do? Is that to just pay yourself? Is that to invest in machinery? Is it to get yourself an accountant or a social media manager? What are you actually using it for? And do you need that amount to make it happen? Or is that just you saying, oh, it's easier if I have a backer?
Yeah.
And it probably is in some respects.
Of course.
Having money is always easier.
Definitely.
But there's pressure that comes with it. And it's whether or not you can deal with that demand of paying. It's no different to a bank loan. Would you take a bank loan out for it? If you wouldn't, then why are you asking someone else to invest in you?
Yeah.
Because it's effectively the same. You're asking them to trust you, and that there will be a return. And if there isn't a return, what is the consequence of that? And can you deal with that consequence? And I'm a worry person, so, you know, I was lucky enough to have that money to say, yeah, we'll go for it. If I didn't, would I have started it? Probably not, because I don't think we had enough of a business plan to go to someone and say, this is our business and this is how it's going to work.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it comes down to. It comes down to planning. And we have just been incredibly fortunate to know incredible people that use us, that trust us. And word of mouth has got around and more people come to us.
Yeah. You said that, you know, business kind of happened as such. It came along and you kind of took the opportunity, and now you're in that lifestyle, in that world. Yeah. Which brings me to the question of, is it something that is built in people when it comes to entrepreneurship and business, or is it something that people can learn and adapt? I mean, clearly you've given us an example of you adapting and learning, but there's other people who have a notion that it's instilled, like entrepreneur is like in your blood and it's who you are. So, you know, and it's not something you can teach or learn. But what do you think about that?
I don't know. I think if passion is in you, you can learn anything, you can be anything. But I think you have to be 100% passionate about it. I think if you go into business and you don't feel like it is in your blood, but you're half-assed about it, then it's more likely to fail. But I think if you go in that loving what you do, loving every aspect of it, getting down to the details, then why can't you be an entrepreneur? I think there are parts of it that are built in you. I think you have to be strong-willed. I think you have to be passionate as a person in general. But I don't necessarily believe it can't be taught. I think you have to work for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. Some people maybe are more business minded, but you're telling me you weren't taught that, whether it's by an older brother, a family member, just the way you educate yourself by what you listen to, read. You're still putting that in yourself. I don't believe you were born as a baby and said, right, I'm going to build blocks here and this is what I'm going to be a bricklayer. Like, I don't think it necessarily works like that. But
sorry to interrupt, but if you're enjoying this show or finding any kind of value in our conversations, then let me tell you this. Our show is sponsored by Potential Foundation, a non-profit initiative that I started with a mission to create opportunities and solutions for the less privileged communities in Africa. And we just started in Nigeria. So I would like to just ask for your support by simply clicking on the link above. You can donate any amount to help me and my team on our mission to spread love and make genuine impact in underprivileged communities in Africa and change people's lives. Thank you.
I think if you are not prepared to adapt yourself, then you shouldn't be a business owner. And I guess that's more what it's about. If you are born and you have the ability to adapt to things and you're open to changing and open-minded, then you can do it.
Yeah. So it's about the intangible skills, mindsets, and ideologies that you have inside you that then come out as an expression of business. Because I guess when you think about people in other successful fields, it's still the same elements, it's still the same intangible factors that are still powering the expression in sport, the expression in speaking, the expression in other industries. So then I guess it's about, do you have those factors in you, and are you able to keep growing in those to be able to then express it in a way of business and express it in a way of other industries?
Yeah. I mean, I also think there's two different type of businessmen or businesswomen. I think one comes from having a hard life, having a hard upbringing, and that passion that comes from that's born in you to say, I will not live this life again, or I will not have this life for my children, etc. And then there's people like me that had a nice upbringing and says, I will make this because it's what I want, rather than because you're trying to make sure something doesn't happen again or you don't want to live that life again. And I think that's the difference. I think people that have a harder upbringing have a more ruthless passion about them and are less likely to give up. Whereas if it doesn't work for me, will I be sad? Yes, but it won't be like, right now, what's the next business? Because I'm not a business, I'm not an entrepreneur in that sense. And I think other people are. And I guess that's the difference. I think some people are born to be that ruthless, I will have a business no matter what. And some people are just business in the sense of, I can have a business and I will run a business and I'm happy doing it, but it is not my be all and end all. And I guess that's the two different types.
What would you say is the most challenging thing for you right now?
People's expectations.
Is that expectations of you or of what they're going to get from you?
Both. I think people, I don't know whether it's since lockdown or there seems to be a promotion of I deserve everything, and whether that's for little or no money. And obviously with the crisis happening at the minute, things are rising. I can't change the cost of what timber is coming in at the minute. It has gone up massively. You know, we used to be able to buy a sheet of 18mm MDF for £20. That's now 45. That's a big big increase, and it's going to keep growing up until a point. So that means other things are more expensive, and I think people want extremely extravagant things, but when you say the price, they go, what? And you say, okay, but well, I can get it for this much, but does that person have the same knowledge as me, the same background, the same, etc., etc.? So, yeah, I think the hardest thing is challenging people on why they think it should be a certain way, and when it isn't, why that is.
Yeah.
And also, people like to avoid invoices. They love to avoid an invoice, or they'll pull something up last minute. And you're like, but you didn't say that when you had it for the 3 weeks you wanted it. And then now it's been taken down. Now you're trying to question, oh, well, why was this bit not the exact colour or something along those lines? And you sit there and think, hold on, you liked it, you've posted it on Instagram, you've showed it off to the world, but now you have an issue with it. And I've noticed the bigger the client, the more issues there are, the more they like to, and maybe that's how they stay rich. I don't know, but that's how it seems to be. You know, the one that will make you a cup of tea when you turn up on the day to install, they're the ones that will go above and beyond to pay that invoice straight away. The ones that have the most money go, oh, we'll just sit on it, we'll let you chase. And that to me is just baffling.
Well, they do say that the richest people are very stingy. So, it's like they in order to keep the wealth, you have to be stingy with it. You can't let it, just leave your hands so easily. You have to create this mindset of, I have to protect this at all costs. Even though they have to pay the invoice eventually anyway. But it's like, let's wait and see. Maybe the person is going to disappear off the planet and then we don't have to pay.
I think because they're bigger as well, it creates more of a threat to small businesses like myself. Like if I have to take you to court, that's a lot of work for me, because I don't have as many assets if I don't win, etc., etc.
And finances to fund.
Exactly. Whereas they know that, because they know they probably have a team of solicitors in the back. They can just call and say, oh, Jerry, we've got another one on the table. And it's a lot easier for them to deal with. Yeah. And I think they know that. And it does become then a game of protecting yourself while still trying to do these amazing things for people. Yeah. But it's hard because it does change you as a person, and it's trying to learn that you can still be a kind, nice person, but in business it's ruthless. Yeah. And you can still, and you have to try and find that balance of being kind and being ruthless. Yeah. And I'm not sure I quite got the balance right yet. I think I'm still a bit too nice. Yeah. But I also don't want to do the flip side and just go in like a bull in a china shop and be absolutely no to everyone.
Being hidden by clients.
Yeah.
I think it's a very interesting point because you're the plug for most people, and nobody wants to disclose their plug because it gives them the competitive advantage in their business and their industries. But for you, you're also looking for more business. So how does it work when clients don't want to tell other people about you, because obviously then they gain the same advantage, but yet you still need to grow? So how does it work? Because with businesses that I've done in the past, and with most businesses, referrals is strong, word of mouth is strong. How are you navigating through that?
It's tough. We do get a lot of word of mouth. We are quite lucky in that respect.
From who, sorry? Is it the businesses? Or?
Sometimes it's, we know. It's normally a personal thing. If I've worked with someone on a personal level, it might be someone that works for that company that isn't necessarily part of the head of the team, but they say, oh, actually, I know this girl that does this and they do great things. And it gets referred that way rather than through the top dog. But it is frustrating but it is, you both build each other. If they use us to do amazing things, we're building their rapport, because more clients will come to them for like things, which means they'll come back to us to use us for more like things. So it does help in some ways. In other ways, it is just frustrating because there is a limit of what you can post, who you can communicate with. And in that way, it is hard to grow. And you think, well, then how do you move forward with it? How many more people can you contact, or how do you contact them? Because in your portfolio, you don't want to throw your client under the bus that they haven't actually provided the work that's been built or whatever it is. So we're still navigating that one. We obviously have pictures of progression and things like that. It then becomes a case of not labelling who that client was or who that brand was. And that's kind of the loop around it. You can say, oh, I did this. I did this. And that's it. And it doesn't label who it is. But
what about like the work-life balance for you? How do you do that? Like you work a lot.
I don't have one.
A lot. And the notion of work-life balance, what do you think about that? Is that something that's actually achievable? Is that something that's real? Or is that something that's a privilege? And is that maybe something that comes down down the line in a different stage of business, or what?
I think so. I think it comes later down the line. At the minute, I don't really have a work-life balance. Work comes above most things. And even when I'm taking a day off, if my phone is going off from clients or emails, etc., I will be responding because that's my business. You know, if I don't, I could potentially lose that business, or it could delay me in building something or getting materials on time. I don't think it's healthy. I will say that. I don't think my work-life balance is healthy because I don't have one. And it is hard to switch off. If I'm not on my phone dealing with business, I'm thinking about business. I'm thinking about our next move. Have we got money to pay the rent, pay the bills next month? I'm hoping it comes later on down the line. I think it then becomes a case of when I can trust someone else to be there in person and I'm not needed 24 hours a day. But at the same time, I think when it's your business, you'll always be on that edge, because I don't think you can fully trust anyone as much as you trust yourself to do the same job you're going to do, especially when it's not their company. You know, it's not the same level of passion, it's not the same level of understanding. So I will keep you updated on whether I get one, but I hope at some point I do. You know, I don't want this to be my forever where it is work 24 hours a day, but for the time being, it will be until we're in a place where I feel confident enough to step back and let someone else have some of those reins. Not all of them, because that's never going to happen, but at least some of them where I can say, you know what, you can handle this for a 10-hour day, and I know you can contact me if there's an emergency, but only if it's an emergency. I don't want you calling me because you don't know what paint to pick up at B&Q because you didn't read an email. Like, that's hopefully where we'll be at, where there'll be enough of a team for me to be able to rely on someone, but that will be another hurdle in itself.
I think one of the hardest things